Hello and welcome to Following On from talkSPORT. I'm Jon Norman alongside former New Zealand international Jeremy Coney. We've just seen another ridiculous day of cricket where if you just split the three sessions and put the day into three, I mean, very, very different, and it really showcased the best of what our sport can offer. The first session, Jeremy, a nip-tuck affair, intense. The crowd was spellbound. Every delivery mattered. Every run seemed important, but a real slow go. Just 63 runs from the first session, but crucially just the one wicket. And that came in the first full over of play. Then fast forward to the second, the afternoon session, suddenly the currency of the run seemed to increase with 145 runs scored for the loss of just one wicket. Then in the evening session, the runs reduced slightly, and we had some crazy passages of play which involved an over that had 3 wickets falling in it, a period of about 4 or 5 overs where the field was spread and Jadeja didn't really seem to know what to do, and runs were turned down, big shots weren't attempted, then they were, and then essentially India were bowled out. Half an hour left in the day. Would England score 50 in the 6 overs that were delivered? Would they score 70? No, they scored 21. So it was just one of those days. I suppose we should start with that first session though. It was engrossing cricket. I loved it.
Oh, it was. The bowling was direct. The bowling was it was difficult to face. There was a wee bit more nip in the pitch. I thought the England bowlers were at their peak at that time, actually. They were fresh, obviously, as well. When Gill went early, it meant that Rahul became the key component, really, of the glue that India required if they were going to set England a total and a target to chase. He got support from Pant, of course, but they were both pretty restrained, as you said. Just 63 runs at, between 2.5 and 3 runs an over. So they were very much intent on absorbing the pressure and not putting it back on the England bowlers at that time. But as soon as they came out after lunch, as you mentioned, Pant's approach was to shorten that period where India were under pressure to get runs. And straight away, he started to attack all the bowlers, really, the seamers and the spinner Bashir. And Rahul took a back seat, I thought, knocking the ball for 1 here, knocking the ball for 2. Rahul started the day on about 47 or 48, pretty close to 50, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
47, yeah.
Yeah, and then so he had gone through hitting the odd boundary, picking up singles, but that first hour after lunch, 14 overs, as you say, for 81, going for almost sixes. Rahul got through to his 100 at that time, I think, and it was a classic contrast, I felt, between one right-hander, a slightly taller guy, very rational game that he has, very thoughtful, very precise, trained technique, starts on leg stump, gets that movement across just before the bowler, the trigger movement to sort of middle stump, so that the right eye is over off stump, and therefore he knows he can let it go if it's outside his right eye. And he just continued his way, giving Pant, his own place to play. And we know that Pant is very different. Left hand, shorter, a cheeky schoolboy, constantly eager to score runs, and always adventurous and never anonymous. And that's what happened. And he also forces the bowler to adapt his length to what is a hittable length for him.
Well, that's key to the madness, isn't it? We talked
Absolutely.
about the method of the madness.
Absolutely.
And we were quite early on this. We said, well, it's really going to play out later in the day. Will he score the runs? And in the end, he did.
Yes, he did. He was a little cavalier on swift feet, wasn't he? And got his way through to his second 100 in the match. Hadn't been done too often for a keeper, you'll know what that one is, but it's got to 118 and was then dismissed. And as soon then after tea, when Rahul was dismissed, it was kind of the spine of the Indian innings, and he had rendered the whole innings vertebrate as far as I could see, and it disappeared, and the lower order once again had nothing there, and they were swept away. The new ball, of course, was taken at that time, just after the start of the third session of the day. And look, I think India have trouble in their team. Myself at sort of 6, 7, 8, 9. They need to do something at that part of their innings. Where does Jadeja bat? In the first innings in this test match, he had to slog and miss because he had run out of partners. And in this innings, again, he'd lost everybody before he really got going. And so there was that, shall I take a run? No, shan't we? When shall we do it? And so on. So it looked a bit uncertain. They need to work out what they're going to do at that part of their innings before the next test match. And so, 371? 6, 7 overs and 21 without loss, England. So it's all set up for tomorrow.
It really is. You're right about the collapse. It wasn't quite up there with the first innings where India lost 7 wickets for 41, but it wasn't far off. They lost the last 5 wickets for just 31. Lost 6 wickets for just 31. They love a duck, don't they? Three in both innings.
Yeah.
But, there we are. That just shows just how important that partnership of 195 was. It was absolutely crucial. We once again saw Pant, the disruptor, 4 times in that morning session, which, it sounds, like it was, like a test match from a bygone era, just 63 runs from it. But it featured 4 shots, 3 of which led to boundaries, of outrageous and wild abandon from that batter, Rishabh Pant. 4 times he either came down the track or pirouetted on the crease.
Yep.
He
tried a sweep off the quicks.
He did. He tried.
And it went over the keeper.
It did. He tried an upward pull, and it was extraordinary to watch. And it paid off today, and it paid off in this Test match. I mean, he's only the second keeper in the history of Test cricket to score centuries in both innings, which in itself is extraordinary. From an English perspective, we'll get Harmy in very shortly, but they kept gamely at it, didn't they, for the first session. I thought Bryden Cast, the dismissal of Shubman Gill, to go with that of Jaiswal yesterday, and then he came back to get Rishabh, KL Rahul, so 3 top order batters.
Yes.
So credit to him. He's been given the new ball in this Test match, which is not something that he's used to. So fair play to him. Bashir was expensive.
He was, yes. Punt got into him today.
Really did. But the England bowlers, they themselves, yes, the collapse came, but, there were times when they just started to look a little toothless in that afternoon session, devoid of ideas. And actually, and it's not often you say this about Ben Stokes Field, but at times I was wondering if they were actually, or how they were trying to take a wicket.
Yes. Well, sometimes it is hard when there's not much happening and you've got an old ball in your hand, you've got someone who's attacking you wildly, and it is easy to run out of ideas. What is my stock ball and what are we trying to achieve here? I was a bit more concerned actually with the few overs that we saw at the end, when by the time Jadeja came on for the last over in order to try and get another one for Bumrah.
Unsuccessfully.
And have 5 men on the boundary. So 4 on the leg side to duck it, and then 1 man on the reverse sweep as well. Now, I don't think you can do that. I think you've got to be backing your bowler and have a man. If you go for a few runs, you go for a few. But you've got to back your bowler. And the concern would be from me is that is opening things up, and it might be a sign of what might happen and what might come.
I tell you what, if you're watching this on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, you just see me look to my right, and it's because our producer Scott Taylor, who does love to climb under the tripod and check out the Zoom recorder, has just done a commando roll back to along the talkSPORT balcony, back into the box. I think what he's saying is the battery's running out. So, Jeremy, thank you for your time. We'll get in Harmy just for a few minutes. You've just been with Manners. Harmy, okay. We've talked a lot about the day, but any Test match which has got all 4 results still possible, on the evening of the fourth day, and I haven't looked at the odds, but I imagine they're pretty close. England and India, 350 needed on day 5, 10 wickets in hand, 90 overs to be bowled. It's crazy to think that I kind of fancy England.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that the odds would be that close. You've got to fancy India, but like what Jeremy,
I don't know, do you? They're bowling.
But like what Jeremy's just said, there's nothing really encouraging me that Shubman Gill will be able to utilise plans to make sure that he's creating enough pressure. I mean, for me, you come out tomorrow morning, you've got a newish ball in hand, Bumrah at one end, Siraj or Krishna at the other end, and you put slips into play, and you basically say to England, if you want to come out and have a go, come out and have a go, and then you nick a couple off. If all of a sudden if you've got 4 or 5 men on the boundary, it's not a challenge. All you're doing is you're hitting fielders. They play big shots to these guys, but all you're doing is to saying to England's batters, if they put men on the boundary, you just stand there and hit fielders. A deep point, bowl a good ball, bang, there off you go. Hit a one through mid wicket, bang. You're not getting one. All India will be doing then is trying to squeeze the game to make sure England are so far behind the rate that then they can try and then there might be a little bit of a cat and mouse whether England go, right, the run rate's getting higher, do we go for it? Or do we turn around and go, do you know what? It's been a tough test match. It's been, ebbs and flows, all that stuff. India have got vulnerabilities. This is probably the best chance they've ever had to win the first test match in England. We'll go to Edgbaston 0-0, and I think that would be more of a positive result for England than it would be for India, because India have had this game in their hand on more than 2-3 occasions, and they've let it slip. Are they going to let it slip tomorrow? It'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I mean, I take on board all that. I just can't see a draw. I can't see India. They don't have the bowlers. They could put 8 men on the boundary. They don't have the bowlers to contain England. They've either got to take 10 wickets or they will lose the game. In the first innings, Thakur went for 6.5. In the first innings, Krishna went for 6.5. And, Jadeja's going to have to take wickets. Otherwise, he's going to be going at 4.5. And they can just see off Bumrah. And Siraj will give you a 4 ball. Right? So they're going to have to take wickets. They're going to need their fielders in, and that, of course, will, increase the risk that England can score even quicker. Good luck preventing England scoring less than 100 runs in that first session.
Yeah, I get that, and I think if that's where Shubman Gill's got to be smart and I would have Jadeja working from the football stand end, and Siraj has probably enjoyed this end, the change room end. And
most of the wickets have come from this end.
From this end.
I think Jeremy was looking at the stats, and 17 of the 20 wickets to fall have come from this end.
So then you have to then just say to Jadeja, you're going to hold one end up, bowl at that end, and we'll attack and take wickets at the other end. And that then it makes Siraj more penetrable. You've got penetration from Siraj and from Bumrah and from Krishna, because they've all bowled better from this end. And hope that you get a little bit of turn out the foot marks and Jadeja bowls well. Because at the end of the day, on a 50-year pitch, and Jadeja's the number 1 spinner, and if they don't win here, all of a sudden we talk about England's changes and how England will line up, then there's some big question marks, because at the minute they've got 3 number 11s, which is fine. I don't mind going into a game with 3 number 11s. But they've got to win you the game.
They've got to be good bowlers.
You've got to win you the game with a ball, and that's their conundrum for tomorrow. They're desperate to get Kuldeep in. They might have to go and replace, the one seamer, their spinner, and potentially a batter to come out if they want Reddy in, possibly Kuldeep in, and possibly Washington Sundar. If you're going to go down a more balanced attack, that's going to give you a little bit of more batting, because 2 collapses here. And they don't win. That get off the floor for India. If England win here, you try and get India off. You try and get India up off the floor for that. So I think all these have got to. But for me, India's still got to be favourites. 350 runs in a Test match 5th day is a lot of runs. It's a great day on day 1, like Manners has just said. But to get it on 5th day against Jasprit Bumrah, I know the pitch is flat, but wow, that would be Bazball on steroids.
Wow. I can't wait. We've had 4 great days. You're shivering. You're wearing, how many layers have you got on as well?
I've got a thin T-shirt on, but
that old excuse.
I've got a little bit of protection underneath that.
Harmy, thank you for your time. Please come back and join us on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, where we'll be broadcasting every ball if you're following us overseas, or just come back to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and watch Following On or Super Over tomorrow, following day 5 of what I have been saying for a while. This is going to be a classic test match, and we are set for an absolute blockbuster here at Headingley. But for now, thanks for joining us on Following On.